Hey everyone, we got a jam-packed show today for the Locked On Penguins podcast. Going to be recapping the 4-3 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. The Penguins have now lost 2 straight. But we're also going to be welcoming Doug Glattke from the Forechecking TV to give his insight on that game. And then, of course, go into some more trade targets because we are officially a month away from the trade deadline. And, of course, preview what's to come for the Penguins later this week. So we'll get to the episode right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @LO_Penguins. I am upstairs today. My girlfriend is downstairs playing Xbox with her friends, using my Xbox actually. So if I was going to do my normal setup or my new one, everyone would see her in the background just screaming and raging. And I don't need that on the podcast here. But I've been making for some great theater. But that's just not going to fly here. But today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, joining me today, as I said in my intro, is Doug Glattke. If I put him on right here, there he is. Doug, how you doing today, man? Thanks for coming on.
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. I figured I would get you on with officially a month to the trade deadline. We're about 4 weeks now, and we've already seen a couple trades last couple of days as the Maple Leafs and Coyotes like to, I guess, go around with each other. I don't know if Kyle Dubas has, Arizona's GM on speed dial, but it definitely looks like he does. But obviously this is a Penguin-centric podcast. Penguins fall 4-3 to the Hurricanes, Doug. In a game that I think was kind of a tale of two halves. I thought Carolina was the better team in the first 25 to 30 minutes. I thought Pittsburgh then made a big push after that. And, you get a result that, it was 50-50. The Hurricanes came out on top. I think, the officiating kind of played a little bit of a part late in that game with that horrendous call on Kris Letang. That is a slash that goes uncalled 9.9 out of 10 other times, but they decided to call it there. The Al Hogue makes it 4-2. The Penguins are able to make a late push in the third as well, but Sidney Crosby was stoned a couple of times at the buzzer. Doug, what did you mainly take away from that game? Because I think some of the Yinzers are now out in full force saying that, well, the Penguins can't play with a team like this and blah, 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 even though Adam Gretz had a great article this morning showing that the Penguins are 8-8-4 against playoff teams this year, which is, considering the rest of the conference, pretty good.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like you get to this point in the year, like after like football's over and all that, and you get like 1 or 2 big games and they either don't show up or they're not able to play a complete game and everybody just thinks that the world's ending. Which in my opinion is not really the case. I think that it's a very good sign that they were able to come back and at least make that game a game, given how it looked early on. And really, you could say they at least take it into overtime if they don't play lackadaisical to start periods 2 and 3, which, that's something that will probably get ironed out. But at the same time, it is very irritating to see that, especially because of the fact that it's like, okay, if they are able to just tighten up for the first shift of each period, they most likely win that game.
Yeah, the Stahl one, I think, was the most unfortunate goal that was given up. Tristan Jarry really had no chance on it, and the Penguins were attempting to clear it. It basically goes off his skate and then into the net, no kicking motion, or I believe it was off his skate, off some body part of his, and Jarry again wasn't able to corral it in. That's just bad luck. That happens a lot for hockey.
Mm-hmm.
I always say it's the devil's sport, and the second one in the third period was one that I think that really irritated me because Brian Dumoulin royally screwed up on that, and he actually had a pretty bad game. That was, I think, his worst game of the season, in my opinion, man. Just was a step slowed, I think, to every puck. And on that third goal, which wasn't the game winner, but it still gave the Hurricanes the edge at the time. His back is basically like he's kind of looking sideways, not looking at the puck, and is not realizing that Jesper Fast is coming down the right side, and then by the time he gets the puck, he's already beaten. And he was just way out of position there. Kris Letang had his man. The forward who was on the ice, I believe that was Sid, had his man. It was just, I think, just a total screw up. And on the fourth goal, he was also a step slow with getting his stick in the way. Just a really brutal game, I thought, from him. And I think that's 2 in a row where it's kind of like, okay, I don't want his early season form to be coming back, but I definitely think he has more to give moving forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point in the sense of he needs to just step it up and stay consistent because, like you said, early on in the year, I mean, we thought that Dumoulin was cooked. Like we thought that there was going to be no chance that he'd regain his form, and luckily he did. And you would absolutely hate to see him potentially revert back to that going into this massive stretch of games they have for pretty much the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And like that's the biggest thing is they're at their best when Letang and Dumoulin are in sync.
He's the perfect
partner. They need him to get back.
I really do think that they work so well together. Obviously, it wasn't working out against Carolina. I think they were kind of just, I wouldn't say exploiting him, but just he had a bad game. Those happen, but he still needs to be a lot better if the Penguins are going to compete with that team. And again, I kind of got tired of the takes I saw on social media and a couple other places by some people in the fan base saying that the Penguins can't play with this team and all that. I mean, as I said in the intro, the Penguins dominated, I thought, those last 25 to 30 minutes. They came at them in full force, and I put this on my Twitter after the game. If the Penguins can play like that and how they played in December for a full 60 minutes, they can take the Hurricanes in the playoff series. I mean, I want to see these two teams go at it. I think they're the two best in the division. Right now, it's looking like Carolina will probably get the 1 seed. They won again today. They still have, I believe, like 1 game in hand on Pittsburgh. Could be a 6-point lead by the time everything is all even, which means the Penguins will play the Rangers. But, I mean, this is still a playoff series that I think would take a lot of lives. I think a lot of years off our lives would be some incredible hockey with so many great storylines. I want more of those games, and it would be great. What do you think?
I totally agree. And speaking of playoff series is shedding years off of our lives. I mean, I was thinking about it, just like looking at it from a long-term perspective. If they're going to do it, man, the road to get there might, honest to God, put me in an ER.
That'd be a lot.
Because, like, you got to think, like, Rangers round 1, Hurricanes potentially round 2, and then round 3, you're getting whoever the hell wins the Super Bowl between the Panthers and the Lightning. And that's just, dude, I'm so excited for it. Obviously, it's very early. I hope they don't crap the bed in like round 1 because we're going to get some really, really good hockey if they're able to keep rolling.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, I'm kind of already having nightmares that Igor Shesterkin is going to steal a series like Ilya Sorokin did, just because the Rangers' underlying numbers are so pathetic this year. They have a good top 6. The rest of their depth is bad. They have a Norris caliber defenseman, and then they have basically Henrik Lundqvist's clone in there. Just when you thought he was retired, he basically came out of retirement, and he's just a younger dude at this point, and with how Shesterkin has been. So that is what's giving me nightmares. One more thing about this game before we go into our next segment, touch on a couple other storylines from it. I thought Kris Letang was magnificent. Struggled a lot in Toronto. I'll say that. One thing about me with the show, this, Doug. I'll criticize any player, I'll also praise any player. And, it was a complete 180 from what we saw in Toronto. He was directly responsible for the first goal, especially that the way he was able to keep the puck in. That was just unlike anything I've ever seen him do. Russ is able to get another one. And, the second goal, Sid was able to come down and just fire a slapper that I want him to see. I want him to do a lot more. Excuse me, but Letang was also great defensively. Was winning a lot of puck battles, not really having a lot of turnovers in the defensive zone. He even beat out Aho, Teravainen, and Svechnikov to a lot of loose pucks and everything. And when he's playing like this, there's not many defensemen that can do what he does. So just was loving what he was doing. And for the people that were blaming Letang for, the second goal, the third goal that was given up, no, I think those people need to either get some glasses or rewatch the play, because that was mainly all Brian Dumoulin right there. But what a performance from Letang.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the Rust goal was, it was one of those moments where the moment Letang held the puck in, you're just sitting there watching it, thinking, okay, like they're gonna do something here. It's just a matter of which players can get rewarded on the ice.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And again, that keeping at the blue line where it looked like he basically almost like batted it down and then was able to get the puck, shoot it from the point, and then Russ is able to bury a rebound 5-hole. And if that doesn't happen, who knows what happens for the rest of that game. But I was loving what he was doing, and just again hope he can really keep this up for the rest of the season. Before we get to our next segment, this is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all of my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right. Thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They are fluffy, marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All Built Bars as well are covered in 100% real chocolate. And yes, that includes puffs that are low calorie, high protein. You can replace your candy bars with these. Heck, they're even better than candy bars. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Built Bars are 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of nut carbs, and 17 grams of protein. There's mint brownie, coconut, almond, and new for this month only, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If they think their flavor might be good, they will make it. You can go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. I'm going to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. Another day, another amazing start from Tristan Jarry, Doug. It's just ridiculous what we're seeing from him right now. It was pretty evident that I think the team needed to buy him at least 10 steak dinners after he was basically keeping them in the game, stopping Svechnikov, I'm pretty sure, on a breakaway. I think Aho also came in on a mini one. He was making a lot of great high danger saves, and just the level that he is playing, I probably sound like a broken record at this point. It's Vezina caliber. He's still top 5 in goals saved above expected. Though I will say this, Doug, they are going to have to find a reliable backup for him. Casey DeSmith is not that, but what another great performance from Tristan. He gave the team a shot, as he's done all year, and that's all you can really ask from him.
Exactly. And, one thing I want to touch on is up until the point that that Russ scored, if Jarry's not in net, they're down by 4 or 5 goals, potentially more. And I think we're getting to the point now, like you said, Ron Hextall needs to go out and reward Tristan with a reliable backup goaltender that is not Casey DeSmith or Louis Domingue. They need to go out and get a guy that's capable of starting a stretch of games and not, having a lackluster start or having a moment where he's caught with his pants down. And that's something that the Penguins currently do not have in-house. And, if they were going to give up assets for anything on March 28th or near the March 28th trade deadline, it should be that, to go get Tristan Jarry, a reliable backup.
Yeah, and there's going to be options. There was Braden Holtby was thrown around today, I believe, from Pagnotta of the fourth period. I think Frank Saravelli also had him as well. That would be, I think, a full Yinzer experience, Doug, just because, for all of the Penguins fans that go to games and for some reason they have to do the Holtby chant when A, he either has not given up a goal, or B, he's only given up one goal. And it's just like, okay, I get it. He played for the Capitals all these years, but you're really only supposed to do a goalie chant when you light him up like a Christmas tree. Like Henrik Lundqvist, Game 5, 2016, you pop 5 or 6 past him. All right, now you can do a little chant because it's actually funny. But I would love to see what those same people would do if they acquired someone like that. Another one I saw today, Doug, James Reimer from San Jose. That team is not going anywhere. He's had a pretty decent season, pretty affordable, I would think. I think he's another option that the team should definitely look at. What do you think about that?
I'm all about it. And with Reimer, you got to think if they retain, like, I think he's under contract for this year and next. And if you get San Jose to retain like 500 to 700K on him, he can be your backup for next year and fit into next year's plans. Which, with the way he's played and he's turned back the clock, that would be rather huge. He had a great start to the year, up until the point where the Penguins just absolutely beat his face in and scored 6 or 7 on him. Yeah. In that Sunday afternoon game where Rust and Erod had the dueling hat tricks. But that's exactly what I'm looking for whenever I say a guy who can start a stretch of games is like a James Reimer or a Braden Holtby or a Yaroslav Halak, who would, with getting Halak, would also be hilarious because of how much of a bad memory he's put in the back of all of our minds from what he did 12 years ago with the Canadiens in that playoff series that shut down Mellon Arena.
Yeah, Halak, that would also be, again, another full circle thing. And it also piss a lot of Capitals fans off, which would, I think, be another added bonus. Though I think he may not want to move. Last I checked, I think he wants to stay in Vancouver. He doesn't want to waive his no trade clause. At least that's what is being reported out of there. Though, could that change? Absolutely. The deadline is still a month away. Maybe he does want to go play for a playoff contender since Vancouver's not going anywhere this year. But as of right now, he might be off the table. But I do agree they need to go out and get a backup. Maybe it's a package deal with a backup and a forward. I had this in my mind today. Maybe if the Stars wanted to trade Joe Pavelski and Braden Holtby, I mean, that's a nice little package deal. And I would probably just collapse if they got Joe Pavelski. He can still bring it at this age. Now, do I think they trade Pavelski? Probably not. Dallas is still in the Western Conference playoff race. But if they do fall out in the next month, that would be pretty enticing. It's another forward for the top 6. I personally think, Doug, the team needs another forward because Kapanen's not getting it done. Zucker's going to come back, which is fine. Blueger's also going to come back, which is huge. And we're going to get to him in a little bit. But I still think they're a forward short.
I do too, and I mean, I still think they're a forward short without even exploring the idea of trying to upgrade on Kasperi Kapanen with how he's played this year. And, that's going to be a big storyline over the next month is, are they going to address the forward spot? And how are they going to address it? Because I'm not really going to buy into a lot of the rumors that are out there right now, just simply because, last year we were all bought into several different guys, and then out of nowhere, Ron Hextall goes and trades for Jeff Carter, which was not on anybody's radar at all. And he ended up completely lighting it up and really hasn't looked back since.
Yeah, I mean, and the reasoning for that trade, he wanted to reward the team for playing well. I gotta think he's gonna do the same in some capacity here again. That would be my ultimate dream one. As Doug, I think is either that's a soda or he's just chugging a beer while we're recording the podcast, which is all big Jeff Carter-esque as we just so. Anyways, yeah, that would be huge. There's other forwards out there, Doug. Brock Besser, Connor Garland. I've seen rumors about Phil Kessel making a return. I don't really know about that just because I don't think he has at this point, though I think his cap hit, if they can get Arizona to retain a little bit, that would be pretty intriguing. I like Nick Paul. What we're not going to go for here is Cal Clutterbuck. This is not a Cal Clutterbuck stand podcast, and that's all I'm going to say on that. I think Doug would agree there. Who else stands out to you, you think?
Before we get into that, I just wanted to say I was looking forward to coming on here and cutting a WWE promo about how they need a big, strong man to punch someone in the face and get cratered in the defensive zone. I was ready for it, man. But no, I saw that there were reports out about Ricard Raquel, which I find interesting. I think that that's somebody who could come in and play both wings. In any spot in the top 9 and still be a contributor. And somebody that I really have my eye on is, especially with all the situations going into the summer in terms of like needing to sign guys and cap money being, ever so of an essence going into the summer is Brandon Hagel from Chicago. He signed for this year and then the next 2 years after that at $1.5 million, and he's on pace for about scoring at a 50-point clip. And I think that he'd be a perfect addition into the Penguins' top 9, and it would be especially big going into next season, knowing that you have a guy with the cost certainty of Brandon Hagel to be able to slot in anywhere in your top 9. Obviously, it would be a fairly hefty price given in that.
He's only 23.
Given that, yeah, he's only 23, and you have that luxury of him being so cheap for the next several years. I'd be willing to pay it because, in my opinion, it's pretty much the equivalent of what happened when the Lightning traded for Blake Coleman.
Yeah,
I think that it's in that caliber.
The top, and they gave up whatever they needed to. And that's the last thing I think I'll say on that, Doug. This team needs to, they're still in win now. You have a really great chance, I think, at going for 4 this year. Excuse me. You need to do whatever it takes to go do that. And I would put the first-round pick in play. I would put a couple of the best prospects in play. I think you do whatever it takes at this point. The future be damned. For me, the team's going to stink no matter what. If you feel like you have a good enough team, and I know the Penguins do, you go out and you make a deal. And I'll be curious to see if Hextall does that. I think Hagel would make sense if you want to pair with Kenny Malkin. I think they definitely need someone that can go on his line and actually produce, because he's just had a mix and mash of line mates and all this other stuff. But yeah. If you were gonna say something, go right ahead.
Honestly, I'm just going to piggyback off of what you said. If it gets the core another Stanley Cup to solidify their legacy, or it extends the window an extra 2 to 3 years on what we already think it can, however long we think it can last, take the cupboard and burn it to the ground.
Yeah,
like
that basically covers it.
Yeah, I mean, because here's the thing. Everybody will be upset if they end up trading Sam Poulin, but odds are by the time Brandon Hagel's contract could expire, Sam Poulin may not even be in the NHL. So there's no sense in it. And, what's another late 20s pick going to do for them anyway? And really, what has it done for them the last 15 years?
Nothing really. That's basically, yeah. I mean, there's nothing really that's been done for them. They haven't really used their first rounder anyway. What's one more, I guess. But Still a little more to get to for this episode. We're going to get into some Teddy Blueger talk coming up in the next segment, and also what's ahead for the Penguins as they have quite a bit of a break here until late in the week. But before we do that, football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season, and it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your Olympic coverage and information. You can head to the website today or to use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So, I had this thought yesterday while watching, and, I think CK404 response code on Penguins Twitter, put the tweet out there as well. I think people are really undervaluing Teddy Blueger's importance to the team. I'm not going to go out here and say he's a 50 to 60 point center. I mean, that's just not accurate. But he, I think, is the one that makes that line go with Aston Reese and McGinn. And if you take him away, Aston Reese, I think, becomes a little less effective. McGinn definitely becomes less effective. And, they're on other lines and they're not doing their main duties that they do with Teddy. So I think that's it's really harping to the team a little bit. And, it's that the Penguins can't rely on that line to go out there against the best competition, like they did for most of last season when Brandon Tanev was there, and then for a lot of this season with Brock McGinn. Would you agree with that? And I mean, because personally, I can't wait for when he comes back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really itching for Teddy to come back because not only does it impact the entire lineup, it greatly impacts the penalty kill due to how good him and Brock McGinn are together as a PK unit. That might be one of the better PK units I've seen the Penguins put over the boards and onto the ice throughout the entirety of the Crosby-Malkin era. Like, for whatever reason, they just work well together. And, that fourth line's very explosive defensively. And the biggest thing with Blueger, in my opinion, getting him back is you can get away with letting Brian Boyle run around out there when you're playing Philly, Buffalo, and New Jersey every other night. And now, with them playing legitimate contenders, I'm genuinely afraid that Brian Boyle is going to get exposed and get absolutely cooked out there in moments where the Penguins need him to be stout defensively and be a force out there on the ice.
Yeah, I did say on the pod last week, I wouldn't mind if he does get playoff minutes, though after watching the game against Carolina, I'm walking it back just a little bit because he kind of did get exposed in that game. Carolina's great in transition. They're faster than the Penguins, which is very weird to say because I think the Penguins are one of the fastest teams in the league. But I think you could definitely tell that he was out of his element in that one. And for as good as he has been this season, and he's been great. I think, he definitely will get exposed in a 7-game series. They need Teddy and, Jason Zucker out there. That's why I know, it's the easy thing to do is pick on him. And trust me, I've, talked about how wrong I've been on him throughout his tenure here. But I still think when he is in the lineup, he is a good player and he can make a difference. If it's not scoring, it's playmaking. So, he also will, go to the dirty areas along the boards and win those puck battles and all that, where I think Boyle, long reach, big guy, but I think it's not his game at this point. So I definitely agree with you on that. I think Blueger is hopefully getting close to coming back here within the next week or two. They badly need him. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Everything that you were saying about Boyle there, in my opinion, is a very good endorsement. Obviously, not to keep harping on trade stuff, but that's a good endorsement to go trade for Nick Paul for depth purposes. Let him be your extra center and be the guy that steps in if Blueger were to go down, because he has really good defensive zone impacts. I think he's more known as a defensive specialist at this point. And that would be a very welcomed addition if they were to make a move like that, just knowing that you have another proven defensive center that's capable of playing somewhat of a speed game or can at least keep up against teams like Carolina and Florida.
Yeah, I agree. I am a big Nick Paul fan. I think, what he's done in Ottawa this year has been pretty good, even though Ottawa is not a good team. I would definitely give up, at least some assets for him. His underlings aren't terrible, better than I thought. But if the team can do better, I'm not going to say, go get someone else. They definitely should, at least in my opinion. But Paul will definitely be on the team's radar. Looking ahead a little bit, Doug, the Penguins are off these next couple of days. They don't play until Thursday. Get the New Jersey Devils for the fourth and final time. The Penguins have won the previous 2 meetings. They've won 2 out of the 3 this year. They then get the Rangers. And then, man, they got to, as I've said probably 1,000 times on this show lately, they're going to have to run the gauntlet. If they want to get home ice, they basically almost locked into a playoff spot. The Islanders can't do anything. They're so far ahead of the Red Wings at this point. Heck, they only dropped 1 point to the Red Wings before anyway. But this schedule is about to turn nasty. We're about to find out just how good this team is and see how they play against good teams. I know it hasn't been the best start with how they lost to Toronto, which was a stinker, and Carolina, which was basically 50-50. But the Penguins will have an opportunity here to win some games on home ice, which has usually been kind to them, though they have been a better road team this year. What are your thoughts on the immediate schedule moving forward for the next week?
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. That is for certain, because like you said, like it is an absolute gauntlet until that third weekend in March when they have the Coyotes. Cause you got Tampa, you got Carolina again, you got Florida and Vegas, Carolina, and then Nashville and St. Louis, who are 2 very underrated teams out in the West. And I mean, we saw with St. Louis, that first St. Louis game, whenever they played at home and came back and won, how difficult they are to play against. And that's going to be another big one for them. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. Hopefully, honestly, like we said earlier, hopefully Teddy Blueger's back sooner than later, because they're going to need him for that stretch of games, or need him to at least rejoin the team at some point in that stretch of games.
Yeah, and there's a ton of Metro games coming up here. I forgot almost, man. They have Columbus coming up on the 27th, and then they have a little bit of a break. Start March, they go to Tampa Bay, and then they go to Carolina the next night. Good luck. I mean, that's probably all I can say with that stretch. Then they have Columbus. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Then they have Florida, Vegas, Carolina, Nashville, St. Louis, as you said, Arizona, Columbus, and Buffalo. So they get a little bit of a break after March 17th. But this is just a really tough stretch of games. We'll see how the Penguins do. Again, they're 18 points clear of the 9th spot Red Wings right now. The Red Wings only have 30 games left. That it would have to be a monumental collapse for the Penguins to somehow miss the playoffs at this point. All that matters is the team getting healthy, continuing to play well, and seeing what matchup they get in the first round. But Doug, I think that basically does it for this episode. I'll have a full game preview either Tuesday or Wednesday for the game against New Jersey, and then obviously a full game recap for that game on Thursday. I'll also go over some practice notes as well, see if Teddy Blueger is back. And, by some miracle, the Penguins make a trade. I will also have that here as well. But, Doug, thank you so much for coming on. Where can the new listeners find you if they have never listened to you before?
All right. So follow me on Twitter at Doug_Glattke. Obviously, put a lot of good stuff out there. And I feel like things are starting to pick up now as we're getting deeper into the season. And then be sure to check out my podcast, Forechecking TV. Follow us on Twitter at Forechecking TV. And as for what's coming up there, I'm really going to try and record an episode tomorrow. It's been difficult lately because Scotty and Peyton and myself have all been busy with whether it be work or doing broadcasting stuff on the side. And we really haven't had time to really sit down and chat about a lot of things. So next time we'll be able to get one out. It's going to be a good one because we haven't really talked in a while. So there's that.
Yeah, check out his show, guys. He really does do a great job with his co-host, as he just said. So thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Locked On Penguins, and I'll be back with you all on Tuesday. Have a great night.